Welcome, I'm Ronnie from Ronny's Garage in Southern California. Today we're holding our monthly tech meet at Ronny's Garage. We're going to be talking about Silver Cloud brakes. I'm trying to push that pin. Oh, of course, it's going to be stuck. Murphy's here. So now I'm going to try to pull the other one off. And this is, as you can see, even to get my face under there, all the junk would fall in my open mouth and eyeballs. So right now I'm just going to...
You got to put a sleeve in there. There it is. I need to do it through your ass. Like your car.
You got a Bluetooth boot?
We were saying Tony can make me a Bluetooth.
Oh. See if you can jump a tall boy. I'm going to get another screwdriver. They're kind of... Okay, one pin. It's out. I heard it.
Right there. I see it. I got it.
Nobody move.
Oh, sorry, I see the brake on.
My wife has hard contacts, and when she loses one, man, I don't even breathe. There we go. Okay, linkages are disconnected. So this whole assembly, or up to this point, this black can, is held on with one bolt. And it's a 9/16 head. It screws into the output shaft on the transmission. So also for those of you out there in Cyberland, Intro Car is launching a new website that will have a lot of my videos on it, which you can rent, and this will be one of them, the brake servo. And it should be located on the page for the brake servo parts. That's starting very soon. Okay, that is loose. Here we go. This can be tricky sometimes. There it is.
All right.
There's your brake servo. Now, there should be a washer. It's like a fiber friction / dust seal washer that is normally, that one's easy to find, attached, glued to this. These aren't available anymore, so these are precious. So let's go over on the vise there, and we will take a look at the wet servo. So just see if we can duplicate these. Everybody wants to look at this. These are the rod going to the brake pedal and the one going to the rear shoes. When these, see how they squeeze it? Okay, so that's applying this clutch in here. These two right here slide up to a stop so that when this metal part right here starts to turn in one direction, this is reverse, it has the rubber stop, that applies the brakes, and then when it goes this direction, it applies the brakes. But these aren't engaged because this is all spinning until you apply the clutch. Somewhat bizarre. And this right here, I think Rolls-Royce licensed this from Hispano Suiza. Yeah, that's it.
Naive question: why is the name servo? What's the origin of that name?
Engineers? Okay, well, I just didn't want to say the wrong thing. A servo is a remote operator, essentially. So like on an airplane, they have servos that operate the flaps that are connected to either electric motors, hydraulic, right? All kinds of stuff. Servo is kind of, everybody know what a relay is? It's an electrical servo. So what it does is it remotely gives you more current someplace that you need it that is operated by a lower current circuit. So, okay, what I did is I pulled this clamp off. There's this rubber seal on here that is mostly on there to just keep dust and dirt out of here. Right there is your servo. There's what I'm talking about. See the wetness? This should be super dry. See, oh, now you really see it with the light, huh? So this is greasy, kind of like me. All right, so this is a dry clutch. This should be dry. That's dry. And what happens is the seal on the transmission is just allowing transmission fluid out here. So that's what we're going to do on the Mercedes Bentley brakes today.
So do you have to fix the seal on the transmission that's letting it out?
You have to replace this lining, which as you can see is riveted on. And then I always disassemble all this mechanism and clean it up. We're not going to do that today. You can get that on the video, 2 places, Garage-O-Matic and Intro Car. Question?
Oh, yeah, when did they move from expanding shoe to the clutch face, type you have there?
Now, first of all the brakes at the wheels were expanding shoe until the shadow. Then they went to disc brakes.
Of course.
Okay, so the early cars, the early Ghosts and the very early cars, they only had rear brakes and they didn't have a servo. It was Armstrong. Armstrong brakes. So I don't know, I think they went to the servo on the small horsepower cars, I think with the 2025, I think, and they only applied the front brakes, but they've been around for a long time. They stopped using the servo system with the Silver Cloud series. Now, they used it that was in 65, 6, right there, 65, 66, they stopped. But they still use that on the Phantoms, the Phantom 5s. And I think even later than that. But on the Phantoms, they had the servo brakes too. Even the 6s, I believe, I'm probably wrong, but I'm pretty sure they still had this servo assist brakes on the Phantom 6s, and all they did was put a shadow engine in it.
Yes. Okay.
Yes?
Since you have 2 leaking brake servos, are you going to also replace the other 2?
Absolutely. Do all of them.
So when that applies, it applies both hydraulic and mechanical to the rear sheaves?
A limited mechanical, because the hydraulics overcome this, what do you call it, the travel of the mechanical part.
Right, but on the R-Type, it's all mechanical.
On the R-Type, it's purely mechanical in the
Right.
back. And you do have a servo, but it's only attached to a master cylinder that applies the front brakes.
Right.
And they had some pretty interesting wheel cylinders on those. The early ones, the Mark 6, I think, has one that has one piston that pushes out against mechanical expanders. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the R-Type, they went to a wheel cylinder with 2 expanders,
Yeah.
a hydraulic cylinder. But the servo, yeah, they're pretty dependable brakes. I always recommend an annual maintenance on any of these cars, especially since they're not driven much. But on a Silver Cloud series, it's a time-consuming job. It's a 5-hour job. But always do the adjustment on this, always pull the drums, inspect them, clean them. They build up a lot of dust. I use a brake clean. Check the wheel cylinders are not frozen. This is just because if these cars were driven every day, you would get, they wouldn't wear out as easily, I think, or get stuck or start leaking. It's just like us. We've got to lubricate our joints and everything else.
So all the seals on this come in a kit?
No. You order the lining. You don't always replace this. This can. Sometimes what happens is they get pretty beat up. This one's got a couple dents in it, but I can straighten that out. This cannot touch. So this right here, this plate with the clutch is free spinning, okay? So this can, I've seen a lot of people, and this is all explained in the repair video, put these on, right? and then put this clamp on and just tighten it to really tight right here. So what you're doing is you're squeezing the can down on this and not allowing it to free flow. This clamp, as big as it is only meant to squeeze gently. This rubber's got to be on this lip and just cross over. Just squeeze gently enough to keep this thing from letting dust in or moving, really, basically. So what another thing that happens on these is when they get beat up and things are just way out of whack is they wear holes in this. So this is a dust seal. You got to have a good seal on it. It can't allow dust and dirt or water if you go over puddles and all that kind of stuff to get in there. The nice thing about when your brake linings get wet with water, they dry out. They won't with brake fluid. They'll always stay contaminated. All right. Thank you.
Ronnie, what alloy do they use when they sleeve? Is it bronze or?
No, it's usually stainless steel. I've seen a lot of brass.
Yeah. Well, White Coast still uses brass, I think, don't they?
Yeah.
But you mentioned a guy here.
But you got a steel piston rubbing against brass. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's going to
But
wear.
there's a local guy that does that. Is that right?
There was, yeah. I don't know. He might have retired now. He's called Carps, K-A-R-P-S. And he sleeved a lot of the master cylinders for years. You do that, but now it's cheaper just to buy a new one. They're reasonable now. There's aftermarket manufacturers. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Ronnie. Good job. I'm gonna go too. All right. To enjoy. Let's go.